But who opened the gates of Toledo? This is a question that anti-Semitic provocateurs tend to ask online when they're trying to provoke an anti-Semitic answer or perhaps lead someone towards anti-Semitism, certainly to make an anti-Semitic point. What are they talking about? What is the argument, and how do we refute that? I'm going to unpack all of that to you today. First of all, what is Toledo? Toledo is the capital city of the Visigoth kingdom on the Iberian Peninsula, which is in modern-day Spain. The Visigoths were a Germanic tribe that had conquered the Iberian Peninsula in the 600s AD. And in 711 AD, the Iberian Peninsula was invaded by North African, that's Moorish or Berber Muslims, who came across the Mediterranean, landed on the Rock of Gibraltar, headed it into the interior, and again, 711 AD, they conquered Toledo, ended up conquering pretty much the entire Iberian Peninsula, would have continued on to conquer more of Europe if they had not been stopped. However, the story goes that the Jewish population in Toledo actually opened the gates for the Muslims and let them in, and that's how they were able to win. The first problem with this argument is that there's little to no historical basis for it. All right, the contemporary records about the invasion of the Moors and the conquering of Toledo, the most contemporary record we have is a document called Chronicle 754. It's a Latin document, and it simply does not mention anything about the Jews opening the gates of Toledo or anything like that. It doesn't reference it, doesn't refer to context that would indicate that that was the case, nothing. And that's the most contemporary document we have from, again, about 40 years after the actual event. But then as you continue to look at historical records over the years, you don't find an explicit claim that the Jews opened the gates of Toledo until over 500 years later. A guy named Lucas of Tui in 1236 actually makes that claim. Again, that's over 500 years that have passed. You would think that, I would certainly think that, this is a real historical event, certainly a notable one, that it's something that someone would have written down before then, not something that would have come about over 500 years later. So at the best, we're talking about very shaky ground for this claim. I think it's very dubious. I don't think it's a real claim. But even if it were, the bigger context of this is also very important. So the Moors did not invade just in a vacuum. They didn't simply invade of their own volition or by themselves. The sad truth is they were invited by Visigoth lords who were tired of their current king, their king at the time, King Roderick, also known as Rodrigo. And so a number of lords, and the historical record indicates one of the named lords was Count Julian. They actually invite the Muslims to attack. And there's even historical indication that they helped bring them across. They provided their transportation. So here you've got this claim that the Jews opened the gates of Toledo, when in reality, it was the Visigoths themselves, due to their infighting, that brought the Muslims across anyway. If this was a crime that was committed, and I say the word crime in the sense of a betrayal of some sense, the much bigger betrayal was opening the gates of the entire Iberian Peninsula to the Muslim armies, the consequences for which were dire. Muslims ruled the Iberian Peninsula for around 800 years. I mean, you talk about big, major consequences. There are a lot of cultural elements of Spain that exist to this day as a result of that Muslim conquest. So this argument is totally bunk. It's baseless historically, and then when you look into the context, it becomes double baseless. So don't give it any credence. Now you know what the argument is about, and you know how to refute it. So go out and do so.